Hello and welcome back to The Marketing Hustle, which is a podcast all about actionable marketing tips from startups. In this series, we've been focusing on CMOs. Today, I made a bit of an exception and had James Wilkinson come on the show, who's actually a founder. But James has his training and all of his roots in marketing and really thinks like the CMO, which is his role in the business. So I hope you'll let me get away with it. James and I have known each other for a long time, and I find every conversation with him incredibly inspiring. We had a really good chat today about the benefits of starting a business in retail as opposed to D2C, which some days feels quite kind of countercultural, and how to think really category first and the importance of that and what that means in terms of reshaping how you might look at competitors in the market. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. So you have taken on quite a formidable category.
Yes. Quite a formidable challenge, do you mean?
Well, like it's a big old category.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in it, like scary on both fronts. There's a lot of big, very established brands.
Yeah.
That feels quite scary. And there's a lot of challenger brands that like really ain't so challenger anymore,
Yeah.
who are like fairly massive, to name like the Wild and Fussy elephants.
And Harry's, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Harry's.
Yeah.
Why and how are you handling it?
I think we saw, well, first of all, I didn't find Rockface. My dad and two other guys started Rockface. So,
but you did accept the challenge.
I accepted the challenge, yeah. I think the magic is working out what they're not doing. And having come from L'Oreal, I was always intrigued about, what they're not quite getting right. And a lot of these brands are huge multinational juggernauts, they've got a very global tone of voice. They're not really talking like the language of the everyday male. Our customer persona is Freddie Flintoff, that cheeky, down the pub, like almost like nostalgic British humour. Mm. And I always saw an opportunity to say, you know what, L'Oreal, if we're managing a dance floor, L'Oreal's going to be in the middle of the dance floor, trying to chat up all the girls.
Okay.
Bulldog will probably be at the, at the bar.
Getting some shots in.
Yeah, getting some shots in. I thought, we'd just be trying to be the everyday dependable guy, having a good chat with everyone and being everyone's best mate. Okay. And that's really how I saw Rockface in terms of its persona developing and things like that.
Okay, and this is how you looked in on the industry from L'Oreal?
Yes. L'Oreal's going to be, getting their eyebrows done before they go out and stuff like that. So I can say that because I work there. But yeah, that's how I saw the category.
Okay.
And I think, whereas everyone was very much talking a formula game, we've got this formula, that formula. My background's all in fragrances. So I was the brand manager for Armani for the best part of 4 years. And I always thought, a lot of these products actually have very cheap synthetic scents to them. Mm. I thought, what if we could put an amazing Armani-esque aftershave, like fragrance scent, in an everyday product? Mm. And the other thing that we really sort of increasingly started to hone in on is our like scent system that we've developed. Mm. It's madness that most men will use a floral shower gel that's owned by their wives or girlfriends. Then they're put on, an oriental scent after deodorant. Then they're put on a different fragrance family scent as a fragrance. And almost you're this concoction of weirdness by the end. And really my goal is to say, okay, guys, if you wear the same scent across, 4 different products, it's going to be maximized. It's almost like a recession proof, right?
Yeah.
Because you've used a lot more affordable products to maximize this scent as opposed to all these scents contrasting. But that's probably my fragrance brain working over.
Well, but we share this odd, like you were doing fragrance at L'Oreal, I was in fragrance at Procter & Gamble.
Yeah.
But when you talk about like how you saw the market from L'Oreal and this understanding of the startup ecosystem and like thinking about how brands could like enter new markets, that feels so different to the mindset I had when I was in a big business.
Right. Okay.
And I wonder whether that's like a P&G L'Oreal thing or maybe how our brains were wired. But I just didn't really understand entrepreneurial business at all when I was in that big, like, giant ecosystem. What do you think gave you that entrepreneurial edge?
Well, age sort of 27, 28, I had a bit of a mid to late 20s crisis. It wasn't like catastrophic. It wasn't catastrophic, but it was a bit like I looked at my upline and I thought, I don't want any of their jobs. And, and I thought I also, like a lot of people, had probably fallen into a marketing internship that's turned into a grad scheme. Extremely grateful for L'Oreal, by the way, before, and learnt so much there. But my goal was to get experiences of many industries as quickly as possible, which led me to a company called Market Gravity, which was an innovation and proposition design company. Essentially, we were doing startups within corporates, and it was we were industry agnostic. We had free rein to ask the stupid questions. And, some of our previous briefs have been how might a mobile phone provider like O2 enter a car insurance market? So you're just thinking all of these different ways. And over that 2.5, 3 years, I learnt so much, and it really gave me the armory in how to, approach a category and how to seed a really good story in terms of proposition through to retailers. And I think still to this day, the best thing that any challenger brand can do is to just zone in on, okay, what's not being done in the category, and be the real sidekick of the retailer. I think so many at L'Oreal, and I'm pretty sure same at P&G, we used to go in and basically be like, here's the MPD, and you're taking it because we know you're taking it because we're so big, and
because our business plan sort of says you have to.
And here's a 360 plan, and good luck with it. Whereas now, I genuinely say to my team all the time, like, we have to be category first. Like all of our strategy presentations, they don't start with what we're doing as Workphase. They start with, here's your gaps, here, your penetration's down in this, here's a few proposition ideas in terms of how you can grow your penetration, and looking at it through the category lens. And recently we've still got quite a small team, but within the first 5 hires was a category lead. And I think that's very different to how a lot of startups and challenger brands will think. They think, I need a salesperson, I need a marketing person, I need, a finance person. We're like, no, I need category. I think it's really important.
I've seen that so many times over as the differentiator. At early stage at Propercorn, Ben Greenchild, who now runs Tony's Chocolonely in the UK, came in as commercial director, and he did exactly the same thing. He was like, my first hire as a category lead. And it absolutely changed the business. Like, I really believe that mindset, and then if you resource it right, or not, because it doesn't necessarily need to be a specific hire, but the difference between businesses who think category first versus thinking brand first, I think is the single biggest.
And I think the difference was, I was a consultant. I've been consulting into Sainsbury's and into TK Maxx and into Alibaba, into Google for 3 years. And I thought, and at the start of Rockface, we had nothing. Like, we were starting to get delisted in places. And I said to myself, what do we have that no one else does? And that was, me and James have been consulting into places for all these years. And we said, do you know what? Actually, if we can just be consultants into the retailers, that's our magic.
Yeah.
And that's really what saved the business when we took it over.
Yeah. So we talked about that as a huge point of difference, which is like, it's so interesting because you wouldn't shop the category and know that that's what was making you guys stand out. There is a really clear difference in your focus in men. Like, that feels quite refreshing.
Hopefully.
Well, I think it's, you and I have spent a lot of time together over the last few years, and I'm always struck by how, like, controversial that feels. Like, no one else is doing it. Tell me more about that mission and why.
Well, I think for me, because sometimes I think, like a lot of people, I wake up and think, I'm selling deodorant. Like, was I put on this planet to sell deodorant?
You and me both, yeah. And the daily, like, what am I doing?
And I think I've naturally got, my brain can be quite insecure at times, and I think, was this my path? But then I think back to, our products are probably the first products in someone's day they touch every single day. And I think that's quite special in terms of, if we can get that guys across the UK feeling energized and really good about themselves. I think we're not where I want us to be right now. And there's lots of things in development. In fact, a lot of stuff that hopefully would have come out by the time this podcast comes out.
Yeah, we need to highlight that. So we're recording this in early June as my last podcast day before I go off and have a baby. And by the time this comes out in August, you will have brought quite a lot of new stuff to market.
Well, let's not talk about the new stuff to market quite yet. But I think a lot of brands are sort of shying away from how they talk about masculinity. Mm-hmm. I think what's so amazing about when you think about society at the moment is that I know we're probably not there yet, and I don't want to speak on behalf of a woman. I'm not a woman, obviously, but I think there has been such an amazing level up. Like the voices in feminism and things like that have ensured that we are having the discussions about gender pay gaps and everything like that. And I think now there has been, I don't know, growing up as a man, I'm now 34, I do think there's a bit like, what are we meant to do? Because it's like we're meant to be really supportive and potentially sometimes the lead earner in a household, but then we've got to share 50% of the household workload. And I think we've got to this point in time in just general society where it's really tough to be a man and a woman. There's a pressure on women to have as good a jobs as men. There's a pressure on men to still be the traditional, like, I'm going to be the main breadwinner, but I'm also going to be like the dad that's home at 4:00 to do bath time. And I just really fancy tackling this challenge. And there's some amazing voices in space. I caught up with James Routledge the other day. We very much see eye to eye on it. And I think one of the things I've seen over the last year is the only voice that's really stood out is Andy Tate. And it's because he's going, this is what being a man is like. And I think lots of men and unfortunately young boys have jumped on that and said, I need to be this. And it's so dangerous because he's the only person that's putting himself out there. We've actually got into a situation where, what is being a man has got a bit blurry. And so I think as a men's brand and as a UK men's brand, I really fancy trying to be that voice and not us as a brand all the time, but working with key profiles to give them the level up to be able to do it. Like with our marketing budget, let's give them the voice or partner with them with that brand and see what we can do.
Because you feel like there's a question around what modern masculinity means. And in absence of better, more constructive voices, the only voices are getting all the airtime?
Yes. Yeah, I think that sums it up perfectly.
Yeah.
I don't think any other brand is tackling that.
I think it's really scary territory, and I think it's quite new. Like it's a fast evolving question, and the narrative around the manosphere is getting so scary that I completely agree that someone needs to step in and do it. Is this going to be the platform of James Wilkinson, the thought leader and vlogger?
I don't know. Obviously I'm trying to run the brand day to day, but I would, I fancy it. Let's go for it. Yeah.
Blimey, right, okay. You heard it here first. So the big vision is to create rhetoric to answer this question that no one's answering. You're doing that currently through deodorants. Mm-hmm. How are the deodorants doing that? And let's talk about what's coming next and how the brand's going to evolve.
Yeah, well, we've got an amazing piece of content coming out for Father's Day. It's the concept is, men often don't open up to their fathers. I don't know if you can imagine your partner. Like, do you think he's turned around to his dad and says, "Dad, I love you"? No. And like when I sort of say something like that to my dad, we have I don't know. He's got a lot more. He's got a lot more sort of feeling in the last few years, and it freaks me out a little bit. Dad, I hope you're not watching this. But we've got this piece of content that's all around basically, saying thank you to your dad. And I think there's not much of that going on, and often, things are probably said on the deathbeds and stuff like that. But it's we thought we'd give it a try for Father's Day.
So to test, whether the brand has a right to talk about this stuff and how the audience responds to that emotional thread.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Tell us about the innovation pipeline.
So I not inherited, no one died. It's good to hear. But the brand was very much a skincare brand when we took it over. The sort of challenge we took on was James and I sat down and said, we're never going to be a mainstream brand when skincare is bought by about 12% of retailer shoppers. So we said, okay, how do we really level up? We obviously said, well, we utilised my experience in fragrances to design all of these new scents that we thought would be great everyday products. And then we've got our range of 3 at the moment, 3 scents. And what James is brilliant at and what we've really focused on is in a similar way that Dyson innovates across air. They've got their hand dryer, they've got their hair dryer, they've got, help me out here, some other Hoovers. We wanted to have that same thread across scent. So, we could go into aftershaves, we could go into shower gels, we could go into deodorants. And one of the things I've become increasingly aware of is, chucking out the recycling bin at the end of a week, and you realise that it's bigger than your landfill bin, which is good, but then you hear all these stats around only 14% of recycled stuff actually gets recycled. And I think our long-term vision is to get out of the sprays category. The likes of Unilever, they say, you read their annual report, you think they're the most green company on the planet, but then they're the biggest aerosol producer in the world. And, they're putting a lot of butane into the atmosphere and, a lot of cans. The cans have got the plastic bit on top of the aluminium can. So what we wanted to do is, and we saw this innovation from Wild and Fussy in the men's stick space. So we've come up with our own, where is it? This is our refillable deodorant that we'll be launching in July. We've got one of 3 scents.
Do a little to camera. Here we go.
And our real benefit was that we could see some of the sort of some of the ways that the other products have fallen a bit sour. Count me out.
Fallen
foul.
Foul, yeah.
Foul. Yeah, we'll edit that.
You can fall foul. Yeah, short.
Fallen short. And one of the things that we found was with some of the other products on the market, you couldn't tell which was the top, which was the bottom. The reload mechanism was really hard. One of these products also falls over really a lot easy. And then as well, we wanted this to look like something you'd be proud to have on your bedside table.
Yeah.
Almost like an aftershave bottle, playing to that way that we talk about scent. So the other big thing is we wanted every time someone looked at it to know what scent was in the product. Because some of the other products on the market, once you've got the scent loaded, you don't know what that was. And it was a bit of a daily reminder of saying, okay, you're wearing that scent, so maybe you should be wearing our shower gel and our aftershave at the same time.
Was this, that's an amazing list of insights. Is that your own experience, or was that user testing?
User testing. So we worked with, and it's always tough, isn't it, when you're a challenger brand and managing budgets, but we worked with a company called V2 Studios over in Shoreditch. And, we got focus groups in there, 10 at a time, lots of pizza. And just saying, just being like, there's a product, what do you think? And really that's what we did when James and I were doing proposition design. It was test early, test often. Often when we do new packaging. We're literally print off paper, wrap the product, go into store, put it on the shelf, and just watch people be like, shoppers coming along and be like, oh, that's a bit weird, and just say, what do you think of that? And that's how we've done all of our rebrands and stuff. And we've also, once you've done that, you want to do a pole fish or something like that, where you're pushing it out to, 1,000 people, and then just trying to get enough qual and quant to stop that gut wrench moment of going, I'm putting it all on red, which you still get, but you can,
Yeah.
But yeah, back to this. I mean, we wanted to make sure the refill mechanism was really easy. So it's just that, you keep that's 100% recycled plastic. So it's end of life when, it is end of life, that can be put in a recycling bin. And this is obviously a biodegradable capsule. So yeah, this is the innovation we're coming out with. It's launching at the same time as our aftershaves. And yeah, I'm just excited to see how it does.
So exciting.
And yeah, and obviously the mission is back to that insecurity around what do I do every day. It's like, if I can start to take plastic out of the whole, value chain, then that's another tick in the box of, me doing something that I feel comfortable with, as opposed to just, pumping out a lot more spray deodorant cans.
Yeah. I'll give a brief shout out to Sticky Beak that's just popped into my head. So Sticky Beak sponsor this series, and they do side-by-side proposition testing at scale. Amazing. Like the quant format that you're talking about, like really amazing tech for that. So I thought it'd be a miss not to mention them.
I will check out Sticky Beak.
There you go. So August, like when this airs, this would have been in market for 6-8 weeks.
Probably 4.
4, okay.
4.
What would be a great moment? Like, what would be true at that point for you to be like, things are feeling good? Because I think people never talk about those like first awkward weeks post a launch.
Yeah, I mean, you're just looking at your EPOS, just like, please. We're going to come to the market with quite an aggressive promo mechanic. So I think it's going to be buy a case, get a refill free. So we knew that we had to go heavy on the initial offer. I think the repeat purchase is my number one.
Yeah, but that'd be too early to tell.
Probably be a bit too early to tell. I think, well, obviously what we want is, and we've seen this in female, that 84% of shoppers of deodorant are incremental, of refill deodorants are incremental to the female category. Which essentially means that people are still buying a spray deodorant, but they're trying to decrease their usage and for the most part use that stuff, but maybe for the gym bag, buy a spray deodorant. But that is like a retailer's golden dream, isn't it? Because it means that you're going up to a higher AUP across the category. You're still, you're not cannibalizing your existing business, but you are still reducing the waste that comes with single-use products.
But the cannibalization will come in frequency of purchase of the non-refillable.
Yeah.
But it's like a nice graph that builds as opposed to like a cliff edge.
Yeah, so there's not like, oh my goodness, I don't know, £60 million worth of business has gone out.
Gone. Yeah.
Out the door. I mean, we're on a journey. I think we have to, and I think, a lot of people say, Wild and Fussy are already doing this. But the thing is, they've not really touched the surface in terms of total customers that could be buying this. So I think all these challenger brands are doing a really good job together and working together to shift. And obviously, Unilever have just announced that they're buying Wild, which is, very interesting. But the challenge is, if we can all, without the likes of Wild and Fussy and us now, and all of these other great challenger brands like Neat, that are doing great stuff in sustainability, these juggernauts don't change because they've got their profit and loss account. They probably won't launch something unless it's margin accretive and they're going to be able to report, a positive EBITDA movement or a CM2 or CM3 back to their board. And so you need us, the challenger brand community, to drive this change.
Absolutely. And the change is quite significant in the case of like the habitual shift that's required to buy a case and to buy a refillable, and therefore meaningful market penetration, like getting the UK to stop, well, not even UK, getting the world to stop buying single-use deodorant and start buying refillable formats is a significant shift that's going to take more than one player.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's pretty crucial that there's a few of you having a really good go at it.
Yeah. And I hope, I don't actually know anyone at Wild or Fussy, but I hope there's almost like a bit of, we're going at this together type thing. And I think, competitors in the challenger brand space should be a bit more friendly to each other than we actually are. I mean, we'll obviously just plug Big Up Club and stuff like that. We are, I'm a member of Big Up Club. I sit down with the marketing director of Heights and Brett like Zoopla and brands like that. And it's, us sharing insights within our communities, so useful. And it almost feels like, let's get them, let's get the big guys, let's force this change, because it is sometimes the innovation that comes out the big corporates is a bit lazy, and it's not very, I don't feel like it's very purposeful. I think it can often be, P&L protection as opposed to driving a conscious change into something that's going to deliver something good.
But that's not like a theory. That makes total sense given the way those businesses are run.
And set up.
That's exactly what they have to do, and therefore it has to come to the like upstarts who can be more risk, like lean more into risk to do things differently. I think you're completely right that brands in the same space need to talk to each other more often. I feel so strongly about how much wasted energy is spent worrying about your competition.
Yeah.
What an absolute waste of life. Like, if we all firstly, your competition is so often not other brands in your category.
Yeah.
It's so often the other thing that you might spend a bit more money on, or the other decision that might make you feel a bit more smug about being sustainable. So for you guys, it might be like the coffee pods that are more refillable. Like, it's like in your weekly shop, you've got one thing that you're going to do a bit differently. So that's actually your competitive set, not often the other brands on shelf because of segmentation.
Yeah.
And the market, like, there's so much pie to go after. So why do we all squabble for the same share?
I know. And actually, I'm challenging our sales team at the moment to think, okay, we might not be able to get that gondola end in September, but is there another challenger brand? I don't know, someone in hygiene or toiletries, like Here We Flow, or someone like that we can say, we'll share a shelf.
Yeah.
And, I actually approached another challenger brand in men's a year ago, and I said, do you know what? You guys have got the shave category, we've got the other bits. Do you want to share a shelf? And I got a flat no, and I was shocked because I thought, you idiots. Because you've turning down an opportunity to get a secondary space. But just that kind of mentality of, we're always going to come up against the facts that Unilever have got their JBP where they've got 5-6 gondola end moments a year, and you can't get around it. We are sitting ducks, so you've got to just work with what you've got. And it's the metaphor of, just chipping away at that rock, and at one point it will crack and you'll get, your gondola end moment as a full shelf. But until then, let's think creativity to go around the side. Perfect Ted have just done something with Oatly, which is a shared gondola end. Great example of thinking a bit differently.
It will come straight back to what you were saying at the start of this chat around category first approach. It's like it's all the same mindset that gets you into that headspace as opposed to obsessing about what everyone else is doing. Let's talk about your focus on retail.
Yeah.
Which, again, like, it's implicit in everything we've been saying, which is you're building a proposition to take to a supermarket who's up to its eyeballs in business plans with huge businesses. Therefore, the narrative has to be really tight. But that's the route you decided to take. And D2C is a significant and growing part of your business, but you're retail focused and always have been.
Yes. Yeah.
Why and how do you do it?
Well, first of all, retail is the easiest way to grow quickly, I would argue. Overnight you can go from having 0 stores to 500 stores. You've got to leverage a few different mindsets along the way. Your first retailer, forget about doing above the line. You want to be doing, you want to be doing paid social media, and you want to be doing the retailer marketing. Although it's expensive, you talk to the likes of Dunnhumby at Tesco and things like that, and you wince with some of the rate cards that you're being asked to pay. It is much better to be talking to, 15 million highly engaged shoppers within that retailer, rather than trying to influence the whole UK shoppers.
I think you could go even further. Like, I always talk about it as like shelf back.
Yeah.
So
what do you mean by that?
I mean, great question. What are you on about? You want to start with the customers that are in the aisle.
Yeah.
So that's not 15 million. That's like a small subsection who are at that fixture, who are engaged in the category already. And your first job is to win as many of them as possible, because the ROI on that, like, it's just so much more like shooting fish in a barrel. And every foot you take back from the shelf, whether you're like in the next aisle, or you're at the front of the store, or you're like, that someone is a Tesco shopper but they're not in that store when you talk to them, your like opportunity of finding them just gets so much smaller. So it's like way more like needle in a haystack.
Yeah, 100%.
And that does mean that it's like point of sale, with packaging first, then it's point of sale, then it's what retailer owned media options are there at fixture. And then you start thinking about like the magazines and the displays outside a store and all that stuff. But you're in rate card territory.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for any challenger brand going into retail for the first time, I would hero in on two metrics. The first one is repeat rate. You're never going to be fighting or competing on unit rate of sale with a large brand like Lynx. You just never are. But if you can show that the shoppers that you are bringing in are repeat buying your product, that's an interesting story for the retailer, because they're saying, actually, if I give this brand a bit more space, or if I give them that Gonda end, I know that they're looking after bottom of funnel so well that they're then going to start trickling up. For instance, our body spray is the number one repeat rate product in the men's category in Tesco. And I'm like a broken record. I'm like, guys, come on. More space, more space, more space. The second one is NPS score, not store. You just want to make sure, our average star reviews are 4.8 out of 5. And it's, as long as we're doing that job at bottom of funnel, then I know that start fueling top of funnel, it's going to work. Now, we're everywhere now, bar Superdrug, and I think now I haven't got it right yet. We've got a conundrum, and we're trying to do big out of above the line, and sometimes you can look and be like, oh, I didn't see that massive spike. And you're playing this longer game, you're playing this awareness job. Loads of people. We recently did a out of home buy in London. So many people messaging me. Obviously, I hope the rest of the London and UK population seing it, not just my friends.
Your mates.
But you don't necessarily see that hockey stick jumping curve. You're playing a long game of getting the awareness up. And I always have this challenge with my media agency. They're like, do you want awareness or do you actually want sales? And I have to keep on checking myself to be like, I want awareness. And it's so, that is so hard to say, because you really want sales, but actually you're never going to get there, or like you're only just going to be filtering through the same shoppers that you've got at shelf if you're just going to be talking a sales game. Like, we need to be trying to grow that total pie and hoping the bottom of the funnel will do its job, and the repeat rates will make sure you grow that funnel.
I'm so pleased your agency are asking that question. I feel like it's every agency's question every day. Like, are you actually happy with awareness? Let me ask you that again. It's so rare for a founder to say yes and mean it.
And as a brand owner, you always are a bit like, I want awareness, but ultimately I'm getting judged on sales by my board. But I need to have a long-term game. And that is awareness.
Yeah, but fair enough. That's really hard. Like, that's the right thing to do. But I also have so much sympathy for how stressful that is in the moment. And I do it myself. Like, I'll go on to my team about how everything we do needs to do about thought leadership and building credibility. And then I'm like, but where are the inquiries? And it's exactly the same. Like, you practice what you preach or fail to, in my case.
Insecurities.
Yeah, we're all the same. I'm fascinated by your focus on repeat rates because that is a beautiful little microcosm example of why how brands grow as a theory doesn't work. So the Byron Sharp book would say it's penetration, 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 penetration. You're saying, no, it's not. It's repeat rates for an early stage brand. And that makes total sense to me, but I rarely hear the focus so clear cut. How do you balance that like the focus and the need for repeat rates with presumably like a natural focus on acquisition?
Yeah, I think, as I say, like most challenger brands, we're on a journey. We have a quarterly dip in terms of marketing awareness, customer awareness now. I think I know that we're ratcheting up the awareness scores each month or quarter, that we, as long as our repeat rates remain high, if I saw a repeat rate drop, that's a real issue. And so, in 6 months' time, I want to be looking at that new innovation in terms of refillable deodorant and saying, okay, of those customers I brought in, have I transitioned many of those to repeat purchase customers? I think we're quite fortunate, like we're growing at 40% year on year. So I think what we are able to do is just put more and more, test more and more things. I think the challenge that any marketer has these days, and what's quite overwhelming for any marketing leader or founder, is I talked to my dad about what he was doing when he was sort of 20s, 30s, and they had 2 to 3 media outlets. You've got TV, you've got billboards, and you've got press. Now I look at the marketing mix and I'm just like, oh my goodness, we've got partnerships, we've got TV, we've got VOD, we've got sampling, we've got...
And no channel is now a straightforward option. I think the range within each channel has got so...
And so the biggest challenge I have now as running a business in FMCG is doing the right channels, but making sure we remain focused and not spreading ourselves too thinly. Because I think a lot of brands will look at a media planogram and say, okay, a laydown rather, not planogram, and they would say, I'm going to do 7 or 8 different types of media. It just doesn't work.
No.
You just have to own a space. That's why we, in our latest campaign, we're actually just going to put pretty much the lion's share of the budget on out of home in London, and make sure we've got good share of voice.
How's it gone?
We've seen really good recall rates. So when someone was shown the ad, we had a 41% recall rate of 1,000 surveyed people. So we know that people have seen it. As I shared before, I haven't seen like the hockey stick jump. I think different channels have responded in different ways. Amazon's responded amazingly, so has D2C. And we've been retargeting through DSP on Amazon, and that's, I'm getting an 8 ROAS, which is unheard of before on our Amazon platform. But retail, we haven't seen the same jump. And I think it might be a sense of, the purchase cycle in retail for deodorant is about sort of 10 to 12 a year. And I think also there's quite a lot of switching in the category as well. So I don't think we see, and it's a really seasonal product, it's a sweat-based brand, not brand, but it's product. And therefore we might, we've warmed up the customer now. Now I need to retarget throughout the year. And I see affiliate marketing, sampling, all of the paid influencer stuff that we're doing with you guys at Brand Hackers as the way to do that. I feel like my customer is 70 degrees right now. To get them to 100 degrees, I just need to keep on peppering those channels. And it's why, you know, when you're a challenger brand, don't spend all your budget at once. You know, you need to think about the retargeting job, and also think that when you do these activations, you're probably not going to see a spike straight away. You've warmed up your customer. You need to continue, like with the trade stuff, with the gondola ends throughout the year, and all of the other marketing mix. Fewer, bigger, better.
Yeah, but this is such an important balance. So yes, put all of it predominantly into one channel. Don't spread it too thin. I fully agree with you. Don't spend every penny on that one channel.
Yeah.
Because the retargeting and the visibility in store is what's going to drive that conversion.
Yeah.
And like you and I both love the funnel language, but it kind of is that simple.
Yeah.
Like understand how you're working across each part of the funnel and continue to do that in a way that's really choiceful. I just want to I want to make sure that what we come across as saying is do a few things really well. That doesn't mean spend every penny.
No.
But there's no excuse
such a
for the
fine
8
balance,
channel.
isn't it?
Exactly. It's such
The
a
sort
balance.
of stuff that, will be in my head whilst I'm on a run or something like that. Just do I,
And I'll get a lovely voice note from you.
Yeah.
I've been thinking.
Yeah.
And I don't know. All right, one final question. What's been really challenging? What have you got wrong?
I've got a lot wrong. I think I'm going to give you a few things.
Okay.
The first thing is hiring.
Yeah.
I think in the past I've been swayed by needing to have, this really diverse mix of people in the team. I think what you're going after, what I've learned is to go after a mindset and a culture as opposed to, we're 3 guys at the moment, we must get in a lady next or something like that. So that's one thing. The next thing is to media. We got into Boots last year. I thought, and this was a big mistake, I thought we're nationwide now. We're high street and we're grocery. Let's create a TV advert. Spoke to media agencies, great idea. Yeah, we'll do it.
It's amazing that they said that.
And it was too soon. We produced this really good TV advert, and it was too soon. I think as well, brands need time, and if you're at this stage in time, don't get too hung up about it, but brands need time to find their niche. So but the sooner you can be guided by your customer, the better on that. So we actually we were thinking, is Rockface, a scent-led brand? Is it, a more like men's life hack, like to looking and feeling great every day, which is our overall purpose. But I think what we need to communicate and our differentiation point in the category is scent. And we weren't as clear on that in our previous marketing as we could have been, which is why in the latest campaign, it's very much, this smells amazing, or like this smells like making love to an amazing rainforest, I think is the exact wording. So I think define your, before you put any marketing spend behind anything, define your real niche, your differentiation, and then start to test early. I think what we've learned from a lot of the D2C brands is that flywheel of testing that you can get through paid is so much quicker, and the learning iteration is so much quicker than if you are doing something above the line or something like that, because you can and that's where outright D2C business has an advantage on Rockface being a retail first business. And we are at odds really with the categories. We are now trying to do the D2C game as well as the retail game, but most people do it the other way.
Yeah.
But there's benefits to both. Our benefit is our awareness is already high, and people now that have seen us in all of the grocers can go, oh, amazing, I can buy an aftershave as well as all of these products on the D2C platform. So yeah, lots of mistakes. I think I tried to not let them eat me up.
Yeah.
And just put them down to learnings and hope that other leaders are making the same ones.
And more, rest assured.
But I like to be quite open and honest about it. We don't get everything right. And there is, in this world, there is always an element of you've got to test things and you've got to, at points, just say, no, we are going to spend 200k on media and see if it lands. And it's the worst thing about this job, really, because you're doing that, but it's exciting as well.
That moment, that however much you test it, however much you inform it, you're putting all on black at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, I'm almost by my board with this latest refillable launch, are you sure? I'm as sure as I can be.
Yeah. What a stupid question. Of course I'm not sure.
Yeah. So
I've had a really good go at this.
Yeah. It's exciting, and it's one of the best parts of the job.
Which founder or CMO would you love to hear me talk to?
Ben Francis from Gymshark.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I think he's very inspirational. Also, Gymshark has faced its own challenges lately. Their latest Out of Home, I think, is amazing. It's very, and for anyone that doesn't know, the image is a guy sitting on the toilet and he's getting up from the toilet, and it just says when you know it's leg day. And for anyone that is a gym goer, you'll know that feeling of going up the stairs, or even trying to get up from the toilet and being like, why do I do this to myself? And they've just nailed that customer insight so well on their audience.
Okay. Love that.
Challenge
punchy
accepted.
DM to send and see what comes back. Thank you so much for coming.
Very welcome. Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you could do one thing and hit follow or subscribe where you've heard this podcast, that would make a massive difference, whether that's on YouTube, whether that's following us on TikTok, or on Spotify or wherever you listen to audio stuff. It really helps us get more amazing guests. As you just heard, James has tasked me to get Ben Francis on the show, and so I'm going to need some amazing stats to pull that off. Come back next time to hear me interview Sarah Keegan, who is head of brand at Butternut Box.